Yoimiya might be the worst 5-star DPS ever. Despite wanting her to be good because I really want to play Archer kind of DPS, I think I have to say it. Now of course the character is not actually out yet and all of these are pre-release analysis. And generally these are meant to be served as a warning because there's gonna be a lot of hype generated around her release. These kind of videos are generally meant to lower your expectation so you do not overhype on the actual release. Perhaps she could be very good and I'm just simply wrong, and that is a big possibility. But with our hands on the trial Yoimiya, I want to point out a couple issues that Yoimiya is going to be suffering from, and that's why her power level is going to be lower. First of all, she is strictly single target, and while she is range, her range is actually not that high at all. Carefully observe how the range here is actually not that big, and at the 5th shot, the Maku Genki is actually out of the auto-targeting range for Yoimiya, and therefore she is unable to land her shot here. Surprisingly enough is that Yanfei actually have a much bigger range than Yoimiya does. And then once again, going out of range right here, where she is unable to hit the Maku Genki due to being too far away from the target. In comparison, while Hu Tao is often regarded as a single target dealer, she actually have at least some amount of AoE, where you can see here I'm actually capable of hitting both Geo Bishop in a single charge attack. That's not to mention Elemental Burst on Hu Tao actually have a really big range as well. In the current Abyss, where there is a Abyss Lector and 2 Power Mages, Hu Tao being able to select her target well mean you can isolate to kill the Abyss Lector first, and then use character like Sucrose to swirl the Abyss Mages onto him. Where this might, in comparison, be harder to do because of the Yoimiya auto-targeting covering. The common misconception is that, oh, doesn't Yoimiya Elemental Burst have a really big range as well? And the answer is precisely the opposite. It actually surprisingly have pretty small range. On the picture here on the left, you can see that this guy is currently not being hit by the Yoimiya Elemental Burst because Yoimiya Elemental Burst explode around the target. Surely, yeah, you can use a Venti and just group them up and then hit every single target with Yoimiya Elemental Burst, but pairing a 5-star character with another specific 5-star character is not what I like to call a ideal scenario, despite Venti being very good. But the biggest problem that holds Yoimiya back is internal cooldown. What is ICD, you ask? Well, some of you who are new might not know what ICD is, and of course if you're new, don't forget to subscribe. But essentially, the concept of ICD say that once you have applied a elemental, in this case Pyro, you cannot do so in a short amount of time, for example in the next 2 hits. Notice how once we have triggered a elemental reaction here, which in Vaporize in this case, our next attack is actually unable to trigger any reaction. And then we can do it again here, and then our next 2 attack cannot do reaction, and then once again we can do it here. Ideally, Yoimiya should be capable of out-damaging Hu Tao and Xiangling in single target environment because that is the only thing she is capable of, while characters like Hu Tao and Xiangling still have really good AoE. But unfortunately, the internal cooldown does not allow her to do Vaporize reaction in every single hit, which means she doesn't actually do that good damage. Aso over at Kerchiming spent about hours trying to figure out the calculation for Yoimiya, and as it turned out, when we factor in a full rotation calculation, Yoimiya does about 10% less damage than Xiangling. That's not counting the fact that Xiangling is AoE and Yoimiya is purely strictly single target. Again, this is largely because of ICD, which does not allow Yoimiya to vaporize every single one of her attacks. If you pay close attention, you'll realize that every current Pyro DPS have some sort of attack without ICD. On the Luke Elemental skill, no ICD. Yanfei's charge attack, no ICD. Klee, no ICD on her charge attack. Hu Tao, no ICD on her charge attack. Xiangling, no ICD on her Elemental Burst. As it turned out for Yoimiya, she has ICD on everything. That's including her Elemental Burst as well. Yoimiya Elemental Burst also have ICD on it, meaning you can only apply Pyro once every 4 seconds. So your idea of using Yoimiya as a off-field deployable Pyro applicator is ruined. Overall, while Yoimiya does attack really fast, she does not actually apply that much Pyro because of ICD. Anyway, with Vaporize not really working that well in the question, a lot of people might be thinking, oh, doesn't Overload Yoimiya work really well because again, she applied so much Pyro? And what did I just tell you, friend? May I introduce you to ICD? As it turned out, it's the same thing with Overload because you cannot apply Pyro because of internal cooldown. You do not actually overload that often as well, which again making it not worth it. That's not counting the fact that Overload is gonna knock the enemy all around, and at the beginning of the video I showed you that Yoimiya doesn't really have that big of a range, it's much smaller than Yanfei. So Overload is easily gonna knock them up away from Yoimiya auto-targeting range and making them out of your reach. Because of internal cooldown, going reaction routes on Yoimiya doesn't really work, so your only option is to go pure Pyro, which is non-reaction, or you can go Official Beidou, which does not rely on reaction. My problem with this approach is, for example, if you're playing pure Pyro of Xiangling, well, this could be a really strong team. It is strong not because of Yoimiya, it is strong because of Xiangling. And if you're gonna play this team, well, you could have just replaced Yoimiya for Xingqiu's, replacing Yoimiya for Chao to get a much better team, which is the national team. And playing a Beidou team is gonna be the exact same thing. Are you really playing Yoimiya or are you playing Beidou? The team is strong not because of Yoimiya, it's strong because of Beidou, and Beidou is just carrying the team. And if you really want to play Beidou team, you could have played anything else. You could have played Beidou Official and Sigros, you could have played Beidou Official and Chao. If someone come to me and ask me what's the best Yoimiya team is, and I say, well, you pair Yoimiya with Beidou and then you build Beidou. That's, to me, is not a very good answer because I'm just basically telling them to play Beidou. Even though, yeah, it is the strongest team, is that what you really want? I want to play Yoimiya, I don't want to play Beidou. That's not why I came here for. It's the same reason why I actually dislike Chao, even though Chao is in one of the strongest teams, which is Chao Xiangling. It's because you don't really actually play Chao, you play Xiangling, and I feel like that's just disappointing to a lot of people. At the very least, Chao is still valuable because currently we have no Hydro character in the game except Xingqiu's. However, for Pyro character, we already have infinitely many. Arguably, Klee is a better Pyro enabler than Yoimiya does because Klee at least can apply Pyro in a AoE faction. So Klee at least work for reverse melts like reverse melts Rosaria and reverse melts Kaya. And while yeah, you could use Yoimiya as well, those are purely single target, so you're only gonna be reverse melting one target at best, and that's not very good. Very commonly, people like to talk about how we have way too many Pyro DPS that are depending on Xingqiu's, so maybe having another Pyro DPS that does not depend on Xingqiu's is good. But the issues is here is that Yoimiya does not depend on Xingqiu's, not because he doesn't or she doesn't need him. She doesn't depend on Xingqiu's because she doesn't work with him. And in fact, she basically just doesn't work with anything. So honestly, I'd rather have Yoimiya depend on Xingqiu's and at least work, rather than something that just straight up doesn't work. I don't know, very commonly people are saying, oh, Yoimiya is like Chao, Yoimiya is a Pyro enabler. But let me ask in reverse, what are you enabling? Especially with that single target and with that ICD, what exactly are you enabling? Are you enabling Beidou with Overload? You're not, right? You're just driving Beidou by auto-attacking. But if you really would just want to auto-attack and drive Beidou, there's Sigros. And I just don't really see a situation where Yoimiya is gonna work better than like basically any existing character, especially the 4 stars category. The combination of being single target only and having internal cooldown means you cannot apply Pyro well, very limiting her capability of doing anything at all. So unless she can make it up by doing a million or infinite damage by herself, which by the way she does not, then honestly she's not gonna be a very good character. People always say just go for a waifu, who cares if your waifu is bad, and honestly if that is you, then you don't have to care about any part of this video. But because precisely I'm trying to make her work, that's why I'm capable of seeing potential issues. Maybe she'll work in the future with future release character like Leiden or Sarah, but with the current information, I don't really see a situation of her being good. Maybe I'm just missing something. I tried my hardest to look, but I just couldn't see it. But as always, this kind of video in general are to lower your expectations before the release so that you do not overhype. Who knows, maybe she'll get buff just right before release, because that happened with a lot of different characters before already. A lot of beta testers were saying they were disappointed with her performance, so maybe she'll get buffed it. But for now, I'll leave you with that. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This might be the last video I make for a little while. I'll be making a channel update in a little bit, and I'll see you all hopefully soon.